this debt, this destruction.
Global news impacts us.
We have to change the way we live. This is why we need independent media.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hard Lens Media here on Friday. That's right, last day. Hope all of you had a very fulfilling and very peaceful Thanksgiving dinner, or however which way you enjoyed yesterday. We're glad to have you here with us. Hard Lens Media is live every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube, Odyssey, and Rockfin. And if you really want to help us out even further, please double check and triple check that you are still subscribed to Hard Lens Media, because unfortunately the censorship is very real. So double check and triple check that you are still subscribed. If you want to even go further, please subscribe to us on Rockfin and Odyssey as well. Those are two backup channels that will really help us out. And please consider supporting us and subscribing to us on our backup YouTube channel, HLM. And if you want to even go further, please consider being a Patreon supporter. As we all know, the YouTube censorship is very real, and a lot of content creators are being impacted by it heavily. So if you want to be a Patreon supporter, that link, just like Odyssey and Rockfin, are also in the description box below. It will be a big help to our studio and to the work that we do here for Hard Lens Media, because now more than ever, we do need independent media. And Hard Lens Media, and this is a fact, is the fastest growing independent media network here in the city of Chicago, and we want to keep that going along. And it's, the reason why it's happening is because of all of you, our viewers and subscribers. I also want to let you all know, be sure to subscribe to our other YouTube channel, Chicago Corner. They're live every Tuesday and Friday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Chicago Corner is going to be doing a lot of great work, especially when we cover the Chicago municipal election cycle in 2023. So that's going to be a pretty big deal. So let's continue to support Chicago independent media, Hard Lens Media, Chicago Corner. And speaking of which, too, I also want to give a real special shout out to our Patreon supporters. So that means, Daniel, if you're watching, you need to make that new list for next month. So if you're a new Patreon supporter, you're going to be called out next month on this awesome list. I want to give a shout out to the wonderful Beatrice Westrate, Emily, Super Claude, Prometheus, thank you so much for the fire, William Jacobs, Andrew Morton, Billy Mixer, RV, Richard Skebby, Vince Martison, J. Kent Cassidy, Curtis Hinkle, TrueDemocracyNow.org, Miguel Piano, Laura Genovese, Uriel Andros, Lupa Logic, Raymond Peterson, Jenna Kurik, Hosen Kershawa, hope I said your name right, Roger Meadows, good friend of the show, Brittany Whalen, Noah Whalen, Charmaine Faltz, Susan Wigan, Colvin Aladur Delample, I hope I said your name right, and also Jonathan Jones. Thank you so much for being Patreon supporters. We will make a new list for next month in December, which will be the final months of 2021. And as far as I'm concerned, for 2021, good riddance. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Looking forward for 2022 and all the problems that are going to come with it as well. But we're going to be in this together. And again, very grateful to have all of you, our viewers and subscribers, backing us up, supporting Hard Lens Media and the work that we do here, because without all of you, our viewers and subscribers, this channel would not exist and we would not be where we're at. And I just want to say I am thankful for all of you being part of our family, being part of our support group, and building this network up. We started in the streets, and now here we are. And it's because of all of you and the fact that you believed in us. And speaking of which, if you are a Patreon supporter, FaZe just showed me an awesome collage video of our move-in and our first videos. And so if you are a Patreon supporter, Tuesday, tune in. Or maybe you should do it Wednesday with Kira. Maybe.
Yeah.
Kira.
Or we can do it today.
Wait, well, Patreons are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, FaZe.
How about if we get over 300 people, we do spontaneous Patreon show?
You want to do that? Spontaneous? If we get to 300, if we get to 300 viewers in the live stream, if we get to 300 views, all right, yeah, we're threatening you. That's right, threatening you is awesome content. There we go. If we get here's the thing: if we get 300 people in the live stream chat at any point, because it could dwindle down, but if we get to the number of 300 live, at any point, if we get 300 live viewers, we got an awesome video. So there we go. It'll be a spontaneous Patreon show. So there we go. All right. But enough waffling. Let's get started with our first segment of the day. Has to deal with the fact that, oh boy, mainstream media sure likes to taunt progressives, but the thing is, we have progressive legislators that have given them all the political ammunition in the world to be taunted at. Look, I said this on yesterday's live stream. That's right, I did a live stream on Thanksgiving. That's right. And in it, I talked about how the GOP is getting ready to do attack ads towards Democrats because they're going to have a tax break for the rich in this Build Back Better bill. So here's this segment from mainstream media, also known as MSDNC. Again, huge shout out to Case Study QB. Be sure to follow him on Twitter and support his YouTube channel and Honesty channel. And be sure to check out his work for the People's Gauntlet. Look, this taunting by mainstream media, it sucks. I just wish we had progressive lawmakers that actually did push back. But, you know, they decided to give the Biden-Harris administration an A+ and say they exceeded expectations. And when you constantly grovel to the establishment and not push back at the establishment, you're going to be walked all over. And then, of course, mainstream media is going to tell you to keep on dreaming. Let's play this first video.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he wants the Senate to pass the Build Back Better Act by Christmas. This is exactly a month from today. Is that deadline realistic?
It does seem a bit unrealistic considering all of the items on the agenda, but I think whether they actually pass it in December or not, the importance is to keep the momentum up. Everyone knows that the Senate is a graveyard for bills, and for Senator Schumer to make sure that this moves in a timely place, he has to sort of set these unrealistic deadlines to make sure that the Senate actually gets to it. And here's the other thing. For the House, it's important, and for some members in the Senate who are senators who are up for re-election, it's important to kind of pass these more controversial bills. Build Back Better bill isn't universally popular within the Democratic Party, not in an election year, and that's 2022. So they really do have a very short timeline politically, and also they need to make sure that they keep this bill moving and it doesn't end up dying while, the left of the party, Bernie Sanders, fights with the right of the party, Joe Manchin and Sinema. And also, I think the progressives learned a lesson with the first iteration of Build Back Better going through the House, that the longer you wait, the more likely and the more you fight for what you want, actually, sometimes it can backfire and you end up getting a smaller bill.
Is there or are there conversations right now about getting all of this on the front burner?
Absolutely, there are. But I mean, at the same time, like, this is a huge bill to be negotiating. You have Sinema already saying that she's not really happy with what's in the House bill. And she wants.
Right here, we hear the fact. Oh, hold on, we got a little echo going on. Right here, we're seeing the fact that, again, corporate media mentioned Sinema and how she's still not satisfied with the Build Back Better bill. Now, the thing is, I don't want this bill to pass at all, period. Now, I know that might offend Vote Blue no matter who, but let's look at the main fact, the main issue of this Build Back Better bill. You know, it originally started at $7 trillion, then $6 trillion, then the $4 trillion, then the 3.5, then the 1.75, and now the $1 trillion. And what's in there for working class Americans? Absolutely nothing. Just scraps. Just pieces of scrap at this point. So if we're going to fight, if we're going to actually, look at something, the progressives need to drop the Build Back Better like it's a hot potato. There's nothing that's going to make Manchin or Sinema happy. There's nothing that's going to make anyone happy in this bill. And again, there's a huge benefit. There's a big tax cut for the rich. The rich are going to be okay. The rich are going to be enjoying everything. The rich are going to be basically being taken care of. You see, the progressives, especially the lawmakers in the House and Senate, they had a chance to really fight back. They could have done something to stand up against the Democratic establishment, hold Biden-Harris's feet to the fire, but they didn't. And because of their inaction, we're hearing corporate media saying, well, you got to keep on dreaming. You got to be more pragmatic. You can't do this. You can't do that. So when we ask our progressive lawmakers to do more, they're saying, no, we just don't have enough. Maybe you need to vote in more Democrats. And that's where I go back to saying, I'm going to support third parties. Progressive Democrats, I had hope for you in 2018 and going forward. That's when we were still on radio. My goodness, if I could go back in time and say, hey, be prepared for disappointment, they're not going to raise the ruckus, and they're going to be taunted and walked all over by mainstream media, I would have been shocked. But after seeing this, and seeing every inaction, every misstep that the progressive Democrats have taken, all to behest to please the Democratic establishment, we got to look at creating a movement without relying on the political parties, be it Democrat or Republican. Let's play the rest of this video.
Wants to work more closely with the White House. You have Bernie Sanders saying he wants to shore up Medicare and other, social spending programs. So essentially, they're not exactly all in alignment right now. It takes time. There's only a few weeks before the Senate goes out of session, but you have to create these artificial deadlines to make sure that people are moving and that they don't stagnate, and that public opinion changes while they're negotiating.
Okay, so there we go. Progressives, if you want to have a fight right now, don't support this Build Back Better bill. Don't put your name to it, and start talking about actually building a movement outside the Democratic establishment. Now, I don't think we're going to get that, unfortunately, and so it's up to the people. Look, was forced to vote for Medicare for All that was hosted by Jimmy Dore, Breonna Joy Gray, Cornel West, Justin Jackson, so many other heroic individuals. 100,000 plus people attended that town hall, forced to vote for Medicare for All. Then there was the March for Medicare for All. And then there was the General Strike Summit, that 3-day summit where so many activists and organizers and everyone else that's involved for a better future through the Progressive Independent Media Network were there speaking about what we have to do to continue on with the general strike and why it's needed. And this is something that could impact everyone, no matter what your political ideology is, because at the end of the day, the Democratic and Republican establishment only care for their donors. It's a sick system, and of course corporate media will never do anything or even report on stories on how we're all being screwed over. But here's a fact. So long as any kind of progressive movement for change ties itself to any political party in Washington, D.C., be it Democrat or Republican, I know, let me take a step back. A progressive movement attaching itself to the Republican Party, let me take that back. That's not true. But going to the Democratic Party, if progressives keep on tying their cart to the Democratic donkey, it's going to walk us over the cliff. We got to create movements outside Washington, D.C., where it can't be infiltrated by the two-party system. That's how we fight for a better future. It's in the hands of the people. So 2022 will be very interesting to watch, and I've already seen some of the early attack ads from the Republican establishment towards the Democratic establishment. It's going to be a slaughter. So good luck, Democrats and progressives in the Democratic Party. You are really going to have to work double time to convince people that people should vote for you. With that being said, we're going to move on now to our next segment. Before we do, I want to just thank all of you for joining. I just had to fix my hair just for a little bit. I want to thank all of you for joining us for this live stream here on Friday. We hope all of you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We're all hoping that you're going to have a wonderful weekend as well. We are live on YouTube, Odyssey, and Rockfin, and please consider supporting us on Patreon. Be sure to check out Chicago Corner as well. That channel is growing, and we need to build that channel up, especially to cover the 2023 Chicago municipal election cycle. That one's going to be very interesting. Personal note, I hope we don't have another clown car scenario where we have 20 people running for mayor. It was a disaster the first time around in 2019, and it'll probably be a disaster if it repeats itself in 2023. By the way, too, we are going to threaten you with a good time if we get to 300 people watching us live at any point. Sporadic Patreon show. That's right. FaZe, our tech priest and seer, is challenging all of you. That's right. We are live. When we get to 300, you get to see an awesome video that FaZe worked on. And I think it's great. We're going to threaten you with a good time. You are being threatened by the establishment, bankruptcy, and everything else. We're threatening you with a good time. So let's hope we can get to 300 people watching us live. All right. Anyways. Got to have some kind of challenge here or there. All right. But we're going to move on now to our next story. And this story, I saw this getting shared on social media. Saw Joe Rogan's name trending. And it has to deal with the fact there was this article written by Vice where they were smearing him, calling him a right-winger, a crackpot, a nutcase, all this kind of stuff, all these kind of weird smears. So Glenn Greenwald, who's also dealt with a lot of smearing through corporate media and the establishment, came to bat to Joe Rogan, as he should, with numerous examples of how Joe Rogan isn't this right-wing supporter. And look, at the end of the day, for Joe Rogan's show, Joe Rogan has a very popular show. And to anyone watching, if you're going to be running a show like Hard Lens Media or doing something like Joe Rogan or anything like that, a podcast at any point, the show has to have, interesting segments and interesting guests and different points of view and perspectives. At Hard Lens Media, just before we pull up these tweets, Hard Lens Media has had activists, community organizers, Green Party, socialists, libertarians, conservatives on our show. And in order to do a good show, you got to have different perspectives. You just can't have an echo chamber, okay? It's how you run a good show. Any kind of news program, you got to have great content. And Joe Rogan has mastered it. He's got the most popular show in history right now. But of course, you're going to have your haters out there and people smearing him as his right-wing supporter when he's not. And, this isn't the first time he's had to deal with these smears from the establishment media, nor will it be the last. So I want to pull up these tweets from Glenn Greenwald, who went to bat for Joe Rogan. Because at the end of the day, the evidence speaks for itself. So here we go. And I think this Vice article smear towards Joe Rogan is BS. So first, let's read this first tweet. We're going to go through a couple of them. The claim that Joe Rogan, a supporter of Bernie Sanders, an anti-imperialist, a crusader against factory farms, etc., is of the far right, is the kind of stupidity in which liberals specialize. Let's try to expel the most influential media figure and insist he's our enemy. And it has to deal with this tweet from this person, Anna Merlin, Vice, who wrote this article. Joe Rogan is solidifying his ties with the far right, while at the same time returning to become the most prominent faces of UFC and linchpin of Spotify's podcast network. And no one making money from any of this seems to mind a bit. And so there's that link to that article, which we're not. I want to go back to Glenn Greenwald's tweets, though, if we could scroll down, because this article, whoever again should acknowledge the fact that Joe Rogan has had a lot of progressives on his show. So watch the brilliant crystal ball segment on the unspeakable stupidity of this tactic. Rational political movements try to expand the range of those who identify with them. The liberal left so often looks for ways to expel as many people as possible. Again, that's Joe Rogan having crystal ball on there and acknowledging the fact that, look, you have these liberals and these people in the neoliberal establishment who say, well, no, we can't associate with anyone. You can't associate with any Republican voters or independent voters. Politics 101 is convincing all groups, all people, that you are the better candidate. And if we really want to fight for Medicare for all or cannabis legalization or UBI or Federal Jobs Guarantee Act, it's universally popular with a lot of groups. It's just not one group. I covered a story earlier this week on Monday where you have Republican lawmakers supporting cannabis legalization for recreational use. Again, let's continue on. Look at this, pull up this next tweet. Rogan has an audience of millions. You can't change that. The only choices you have is, one, engage with that huge audience to build common ground, makes sense to me, or two, create a climate where nobody on the liberal left can go there, ceding it all to the right. Those who want to lose choose to. Scrolling down further. Also, the only point of this Vice article is to pressure corporate sponsors and Spotify to dissociate themselves with Rogan or force them to limit what he can say, which again, note how often the priority of liberals, especially journalists, is to restrict the range of views. Nuts. And again, hold on, let's read another tweet from Glenn Greenwald. Let's give thanks today that this dreary, repressive sector of the media devoted to homogenized thought, concede conformity, and abolition of dissent is dying, while platforms devoted to free thought, editorial independence, and diversity of opinion are thriving. Yeah, like Rockfin and Odyssey, for example. They're doing pretty good. Hold on, let's continue on. Let's zoom in on that one while I can still see it. Far-right extreme... hold on, we're going to go right back to that one. Apologies for that one. Far-right extremists inviting the only self-identified socialist in the U.S. Senate onto his show to speak to his millions of listeners, treating him with great civility and respect, then saying afterward he'd make a good president. So basically, oh no, Joe Rogan is praising Bernie Sanders. And so basically, ooh, Joe Rogan must be Hitler or something like that. No. And if you paid attention to that interview that Joe Rogan did with Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, and Andrew Yang, by having those three individuals on his show, he gave them a huge boost to their campaign. More of his viewing audience heard about them. And especially with that interview that he did with Bernie Sanders. If you look at some of the comments there, just before Bernie Sanders bowed out of the race in 2020, which was a huge disappointment, you had people saying, wow, corporate media smears this guy. Wow, corporate media presents this guy as something else. I agree with these points of view. Hey, I'm conservative and I agree with Bernie Sanders. Wow, what a surprise. Turns out people of different political thoughts and views are being lied to by corporate media. And when they hear someone like Bernie Sanders speak about Medicare for all or any other progressive policy, large portion of that audience agrees with it. So as a final note for this story, let's really address something that's wrong with the establishment media and this article from Vice. If you're going to be smearing somebody like Joe Rogan, come out there with a little bit more facts. If you're just going to go after how he has certain guests on his show who might be associated with the Republican Party or right-wing groups or libertarian groups, just remember Joe Rogan has had scientists on his show, activists on his shows, progressive commentators, politicians on his show. And in order to have a successful show in this day and age of the internet, you have to get outstanding, interesting guests onto your show. That's how you survive. That's how you thrive. And what we're seeing here from people like on CNN that were smearing Joe Rogan just a while ago, or even this article from Vice or any other news agency that's been smearing Joe Rogan, what it is pathetic jealousy. They're jealous because they don't have those millions of views, those millions of supporters. Well, you got to work hard for that. And I remember when Joe Rogan was starting off. You know, he didn't have these millions and millions of viewers from the very beginning. He had to work for it. Starting from nothing and building his way up. And I could respect that. Hardlands Media, we started off in the streets here in Chicago, and look at where we're at now too. But it takes hard work. But of course, you're going to have these outlets that want to smear that kind of stuff. That want to misrepresent who Joe Rogan is. So thankfully, Glenn Greenwald came there with the receipts, with the facts, went to bat for him. This won't be the first time or last time we're going to see somebody like Joe Rogan smeared. Because we've seen how Brianna Joy Gray has been smeared, Glenn Greenwald, Jimmy Dore, or any other commentator, activist, or organizer, or politician that's trying to fight for a better future, to bring in common sense. If you want to bring in change, you're going to have to speak to other people. We have a very wide audience. We have libertarians in our audience. We have Republicans in our audience. We have Democrats in our audience. We have progressives in our audience. But I think we all can universally agree that a two-party system in corporate media is full of crap. They're lying to us, and we've seen through the lie. And you have to communicate with people. Are we always going to agree on every single issue? No, probably not. But I think we all can agree that the system that we're in is wrong. And we need shows that are going to be different than the neoliberal narrative that we're getting from Fox, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC. We all know that it's wrong. We all know that it's gross and disgusting what we're being fed to by corporate media, because the same people who own our politicians also own corporate media. And they want to control and censor speech. But that's not going to happen, because people need to step up, especially here in the United States. Free speech is fundamentally important to our democracy. So I'm all for Joe Rogan. He's having a successful show. Wish him all the best. Good luck to his commentator on being for UFC, which he's been doing for a long time. Hope he's doing well with Spotify, because, you know, you had those people on Spotify, some of those workers, threatening to quit. Well, why? Because he's had different opinions, maybe different guests on his show. But if you look at his work through a full scope, and you're just not focusing on certain things that might trigger you, he's had different guests, scientists, activists, progressives on his show. That's how you run a good show. You have to have an interesting show. I think, FaZe, we can agree. You just want to be seeing the same thing over and over again, right? There we go. All right. We got FaZe. All right. So see, FaZe agrees. So there we go. Since hashtag there, Joe Rogan has FaZe's approval. All right. So as a final note for this story, stand against censorship, stand against smears, and, just don't believe everything you're being fed to by corporate media, because it's going to keep on getting worse. And as we go into the 2024 presidential election cycle, hold on, because if Trump is truly running again, it's just going to get worse. It's going to be a repeat of 2016, but it's going to be a raw, open sewer gate. With that being said, we're going to move on to our next story. Before we do, FaZe, do we have anything on Odyssey or Rockfin? Nothing on Odyssey Rockman? All right, great. By the way, too, I want to give a shout out to our moderators. Shout out to Lainey Peterson. We've got Gamer for Life. We've got, who else do we have in here? I believe we had Fred Edwards in here as well. And shout out to Ayana and E. Heller as well. Thank you so much for keeping the peace here. Faze, did you know we're at 191 viewers?
I know, they're getting close.
I know. If we can get to 300, we're threatening you. It's a good time. Maybe. It's kind of... No, we got an awesome video. I promise. I don't know, Faze. Should we... We'll hold on to it. We're threatening you. It's a good time. So if you're a Patreon supporter, definitely you'll see an awesome video. So there we go. We get 300 views. There, 300.
Tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell Randy Gonzalez. We're coming. Oh, Faze, you're laughing at that, but that's the thing that actually happened in 2008. There was a guy who was yelling. He was running for a city council seat, and he actually said, "Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell Randy Gonzalez, I'm coming." Yeah, no, that's the thing that happened, man. It's the thing that happened. Yes, it's a thing that happened. All right, so we're going to move on now to our final story of the day, and it has to deal with pushing back against Amazon. So we are fighting back. Global Black Friday strikes and protests seek to hashtag make Amazon pay. So on Black Friday, which is a day I hate the most, personal note, I think it's stupid. It's just a dumb day in my opinion. So there we go. Just my opinion. So on Black Friday, more than 70 labor unions and progressive advocacy groups shut down workplaces and hit the streets in cities around the globe to demand on Amazon's most profitable day of the year that the sprawling tech and logistics corporation pay a living wage to its employees and a fair share of taxes to compensate the societies in which it operates. From oil refineries to factories to warehouses to data centers to corporate offices in countries across the world, workers and activists are rising up in strikes, protests, and actions to make Amazon pay, reads the campaign website. While the International Coalition held its first Black Friday day of action 12 months ago, opposition to Amazon's abuses has only grown since then, and work stoppages and rallies targeting the e-commerce giant were expected in at least 20 countries on every inhabited continent this year. According to Make Amazon Pay Coalition, planned actions include in Kathmandu, Nepal. Organizers from the Unicom Nepal and Nepal Liaison Council will protest in defense of Amazon suppliers and their rights to decent conditions. In Berlin, Germany, warehouse workers will march on the site of Amazon's HQ to launch the Amazon Workers Against Surveillance. In Toronto, Canada, postal workers and warehouse worker resource center will march on Brampton Amazon facility to demand better wages. In Buenos Aires, Argentina, activists will take action at the Axion oil refinery against Amazon services to fossil fuel corporations like BP. And in Warsaw, Poland, a broad coalition of unions and environmentalists will take to the streets to protest Amazon's worker repression and arbitrary firings at its warehouses. Sharon Barrow, General Secretary of the International Trade Union Confederation, said Friday that people worldwide are demonstrating to end corporate impunity, to end the scandal of Amazon's monopoly power. They pay little or no tax, especially here in the United States. They pay a whopping 0 taxes, yet their obscene wealth is actually untrammeled. Barrow continued. She emphasized the need to stand with Amazon workers every day and thank unions for their solidarity. So Amazon is headquartered, of course, in the United States, but its reach is global with a massive workforce of roughly 1.3 million people, excluding countless others employed by the company's subtractors, and a carbon footprint larger than 2/3 of the world's countries. Resistance to one of the most powerful corporate empires in history, founded by Jeff Bezos, currently the second richest person on the planet, is also transnational. So, let's actually take a step back. Why is this important? Because during the 2020 lockdowns, during the height of the pandemic, a lot of workers at Amazon were getting sick with the virus. And of course, Amazon was trying to cover that up. Chris Small, one of the few heroic activists who used to work at Amazon, had the strength and courage to speak out against it. He was fired, but the abuses still continued on. And a lot of good workers fell to that pandemic in Amazon. And you had a lot of workers step up and realize that what's happening there is wrong. You had a lot of people quit, strike, protest, and call out the abuses of that company. and still continue on. We're still dealing with this pandemic. This major corporation pays zero in taxes. And it wasn't too long ago where the same corporation had mayors all across the United States bending over backwards so that Amazon could have its second HQ somewhere in America. When Rahm Emanuel was still mayor of Chicago, he was willing to give Amazon everything, just so they could have their second headquarters here. Madness and stupidity. And this corporation has a lot of influence and power. It's time it pays its fair share. It's been abusing a lot of workers, and a lot of good people have been hurt by this company. Where you have truck drivers wearing adult diapers because they can't take breaks. You have workers working themselves to death just so they can make enough money. This is not how a democracy should act. This is not how any country that has any kind of business operating should operate at all. And Jeff Bezos, you know, while I'm all for space travel and advancement in that technology, he's choosing to, you know, instead of help out his workers or even, you know, give them real social safety nets, he's only able to get a rocket to the tip of Earth's atmosphere. And that's true. No, it's really true. Like that's it. That's all he's able to do. Just get the tip up there. That's as far as he can go. So these workers worldwide should continue to protest, continue to strike, continue to speak out, because this isn't just an American problem. This is a worldwide problem. And I know we all use the internet, we all use e-commerce, but things have got to change. This monopoly has to be broken apart. It's not right, and the people deserve real safety and security. I want to continue, just read just a little bit more into this article. Reading into it, just last year, for instance, Amazon became a $1 trillion corporation. According to a video on the coalition's website, Amazon's wealth has increased so much during the pandemic that its owners could pay all 1.3 million of its employees a $690,000 COVID bonus. $690,000 COVID bonus, and still be as rich as they were in 2020. Bezos, who paid a 1.1% true tax rate between 2006 and 2018, according to a June report from ProPublica, also became the first individual to amass a personal fortune of more than $200 billion. He surpassed that figure in August 2020, just a few months after he eliminated the short-lived hazard pay of Amazon employees who have continued toiling at great risk to their own health. In addition, Amazon union busing tactics were on full display earlier this year in Bessemer, Alabama, during a drive organization by the Retail Whole House and Department Store Union. Union organizers in Bessemer Warehouse came up short in the April election, but an official at the National Labor Relations Board has recommended invalidating those results and mandating a new vote after the RWSU filed nearly 24 complaints alleging that Amazon illegally threatened employees with loss of pay and benefits, installed and surveilled an unlawful ballot collection box, and expelled pro-union workers from so-called captive audience meetings during which management argued with unionization. In addition to ruthless squashing unionization efforts, Amazon denies government revenue, though its world-beating efforts at tax dodging makes the Amazon Though its world-beating efforts of tax dodging says the Make Amazon Pay coalition. So this is a sad fact. This major corporation pays nothing. All the best to these workers, and you have to continue on. Amazon, and the reason why it's so afraid of unions and people standing up, is because they know they're on limited time. The people have every right to fight for that better future. That being said, we're going to be ending this segment here. And I want to thank all of you so much for joining us for this late Friday show. We got something here on Rockfin as well. Let's check it out. What's going on Rockfin? Roger Meadows tipped $2. It's not just the fact that media is corporate owned, but media doesn't want to deal with the lawsuits that come their way if they told the truth regarding deep investigation of them. So they end up doing the low-hanging fruit, easy stories of culture and partisan BS. Well said, Roger Meadows, speaking truth to power. Again, be sure to follow Roger Meadows on Twitter as well. He's posting a lot of great content about public banks, worker co-ops, and so much more, especially the campaign for New York Health. So Roger Meadows is doing some fantastic work. By the way, if you are a Patreon supporter, I guess we'll save this for next week for Patreon supporters. We got a awesome Patreon video that FaZe made of us moving into the studio. Like, compared to where we were then and where we're at now, it's like night and day. So when I see we got a lot of people in here who I see a lot of people in here, so please give a thumbs up to FaZe, who's manning the board. He's really done a phenomenal job making the studio happen. I also want to give a shout out to everyone else here who's supporting us. Shout out to our moderators who keep in the peace. Shout out to Lainey Peterson, Gamer for Life, Ayana, E. Heller, Fred Edward, and so many others that are joining our community. If we're going to fight for that better future, it's going to require all of us to step up together. Be sure to also subscribe to Chicago Corner. They're live Tuesday and Friday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Hard Lens Media is live every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube, Odyssey, and Rockfin. Our links to Rockfin and Odyssey are in the description box below. If you want to be a Patreon supporter as well, you get some awesome content. That link is in the description box below. You're also keeping Hard Lens Media, you're keeping the lights on here in the studio. And by the way, too, you get your name read on an awesome list. FaZe, I know it might seem a little bit sudden, but I think here's the thing: it looks so weird having these plastic things on our roof, man. You know, just looking. So some of you may not know this, but we have like these big plastic bags over ceiling. They're doing some work above, so just. We had to do some extra cleaning here because of some of the extra work that's happening here. But nonetheless, it's a sight to see. Who would think that just once we got it all set up, we had to do some extra work? I know. Then that's it was really bad, folks. But anyways, we're so glad to have all of you here with us. See you guys soon for next week, where there might be some additional live streams as well happening over the weekend. My name's Kid Cabell, the host of Hard Lens Media. Peace to you guys, and let us all do what we can to build a better future.